Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where we are headed to Eve. We've got a mission to just do a flyby, and we're going to do that. Now, I've changed out our cockpit up here, moved that back to its original design, but we're still running the updated interstage here. So that's fine, and also, this is not my first attempt at launching this. We've been having some bugs, specifically control bugs. Here on the pad, we've been not able to do any control whatsoever. Let's run a quick test here. If this moves, we're good. Okay, yep. I restarted the game, and that appears to have fixed it. So let's just launch this guy for right now. We'll skip the countdown. It's going to be a long enough launch as it is, and we're going to get out of here. Now, I've also run a check on what's going on with this frame rate, and the answer is it appears to be on KSP2's side. We're using under 10% of my CPU and about 20% of my GPU right now. So, yeah, this frame rate, it is low, but it's not my hardware's fault. I'm guessing it's something to do with single-threaded performance. And, yeah, that's not ideal, but it's as good as we're going to get. So we're just going to go straight up here. We know that there can be some spicy detachments with this monstrosity, and so we're just going to get as much altitude as we can out of these SRBs and then go straight horizontal is the idea. And hopefully by the time we need to detach these in here, we'll be in space and it should be nice and safe. That's the overall goal anyway. But this is going to net us 3,000 science just to do a flyby of Eve, and that is so easy to do. That is so easy. So up we go. We're going to have a pretty high apoapsis, and of course, as soon as those SRBs are clear, we're going to head directly at the horizon. We need as much horizontal speed as we can get, but we need to punch up through a lot of the atmosphere first, and I just want to do this fairly safely. We will redesign this rocket fairly soon into something that makes, you know, some amount of sense as opposed to the monstrosity that it is right now. It is a beautiful monstrosity, to be clear, but it is a monstrosity nonetheless. It is perhaps the most Kerbal of launch systems, and we're definitely going to make some alterations to that later on. So that's reasonably fine. I mean, this is on 2.5 meter up here, and we're going to have to get a lander that's way heavier than this as well. Like, tremendously heavier. That's probably, like I said previously, going to end up being our base systems, which we don't really have yet. We're working right now on getting as much science as we can, and that should be absolutely fine. So we're just going to continue to blast on through the atmosphere here. We're currently at about 12 kilometers altitude, and we're about 1 minute away from our apoapsis. We may want to consider, at this point, hopping over to prograde, and I'm going to do that. It's not the safest thing in the world, but we've got a lot of time left on our SRB burns, and I'd like to get some amount of horizontal speed here. So that should be good. This is not going to pull us on a full-fledged gravity turn at this point. The timing is not going to be right on that, but that's okay. It does not need to be. So this is all looking good. We're a minute and a half away from apoapsis at this point, even if all engines cut off right now, which obviously we can't do. We definitely would not want all of the engines to cut off at this moment. Problems would ensue. But we would be up in space. Suborbitally, but we would be up in space. For the time being, we're just going to hold to this prograde marker and try to gain as much altitude as we can before our SRBs burn off. We want to have very little aero forces that are acting on our SRBs as we attempt to get clear of them. That's going to be the goal here. So currently about 3 minutes out from the apoapsis at this point. That's looking solid. We're 36 kilometers above the ground and proceeding nice and quickly. So that's all looking good. About 5 tons left in our SRBs, and we'll get that detachment underway. 2 tons, rather. 1 ton, and SRBs are detached. That feels so dicey every time we do that, but that was clean. Okay. Every single time, that feels tremendously dicey. I'm going to put us over onto stability assist, and we're just going to bring this guy right on over to the horizon at this point. All we need is pure horizontal speed now. So let's just bring this right on over. I don't want to overshoot it, so we're just going to put it right about here. We are overshooting a little bit. That's reasonably fine. Okay. And we're just going to burn right at the horizon here and get as much horizontal speed as we can. Note how that orbital velocity is increasing, and we're only about 500 meters per second right now, shy of orbital velocity. So that's not too bad. So now we want to be parked here. We are indeed in space at this moment. There is no aero forces whatsoever. That is a good sign. Changing our attitude a wee bit here. Not much. Just a smidge. And of course, we've got that rotational oscillation that I think is baked into the game at this point. I don't think that has anything to do with our rockets. I think the game just naturally has a small orbital oscillation, or rather rotational oscillation built in, that it just likes to do. That's definitely not something KSP1 did. Okay, so we've got about 5.5 tons of fuel left on these side boosters. We have managed to get up to about 1,900 meters per second. That's looking reasonably solid, and we're still working on pushing up that apoapsis, which is exactly what we want to be doing here. Just about burnt out on the side tanks. 1930, 1940, 1950. Okay. Side tanks are burned out. This is always, again, a little dicey to clear this, but it looks like we cleanly clear it. Perfect. So that looks very solid. We're going to continue to burn here for a while. So we need that orbital velocity to come up a fair amount. Of course, it is currently going down because of our thrust to weight. That is fine. We're just going to continue to burn here for the moment. So we're at about 430 for our apoapsis right now, 430 kilometers, and we're targeting about 1 million. We're going for a pretty high orbit again. That'll be absolutely fine, and we are headed off to Eve. Now, we don't even have to enter orbit of Eve. We don't have to do anything. Just enter the sphere of influence, and that's it. We get 3,000 science just from that, which is kind of huge. I do want to come in and make sure that we extend our solar panels, which are these guys here. It's kind of dark and hard to see, but these guys here as well. Is that getting all of them? Yes. Perfect. So that looks good. We're, of course, not coming back into the atmosphere anytime soon. So that is absolutely fine for right now. We've got 400 meters per second left in this stage. And of course, our orbital velocity is still going down, but we can see our time to apoapsis is still increasing, so we're absolutely fine here. No problem whatsoever. We don't want to circularize at this position yet. We want to continue to push out that apoapsis, and it's going to get faster and faster as we continue to burn in this position. Although I do want to bring it over to about here or so. Cool. Just a small adjustment to put us back on that horizontal speed train. Now, this is not going to get us into orbit. I want to be clear about that. Just going up to 1 million meters isn't going to do the trick here. But it will get us into a great position to get to orbit. So we're currently at about 500 kilometers, and we want to take that up to 1,000 kilometers. Megameters? 1 megameter? Maybe. That's not usually a very utilized unit, but sure. So we've got about 260 meters per second left in this initial first stage. That's looking okay. The question is, just how high up is that going to get us? Well, we can see just how quickly the time to apoapsis is going up, and this is definitely going up faster and faster, exponentially, but it's not the fastest curve in the world, because this is not the highest thrust to weight in the world. We have quite low thrust to weight on this monstrosity, and that is by design. We barely have enough to get into orbit in terms of thrust to weight, and this whole thing is definitely going to be redesigned eventually. There's a reason I refer to it as the monstrosity, so here we are. We're almost up to 600 kilometers. We should probably consider time warp at this point. That's probably a good idea. We can see our orbital velocity is now increasing, but we've also drifted a bit off of the horizon. I want to just bring us right on over. Now, technically, we could be at prograde, but this isn't actually exactly where I want to burn. I don't want to burn exactly at prograde right now. Approaching partially out of fuel orbital event, yeah, it's still going to be a little bit, but apparently it will automatically decrease our time warp no matter what. Okay, so this is going to take us up to around maybe 700, if we're lucky. That's okay. Okay, so off that goes, and now we're using our vacuum-optimized engine. So we have a crazy amount of delta V in this, of course, and we're just going to continue to burn here for a little bit. We'll sit at about 10x speed. The higher up we get, the lower our target orbital velocity needs to get, for the record. So we're currently at about 700. And we're just bringing that guy right on up. 720. This is not the fastest in the world, but we knew that would be the case. That is 800. And we're currently burning basically at prograde, which is fine. We can lock this to prograde. We've gotten a lot of horizontal speed at this point. We're going to drift off of prograde, though, and that is understood. So we're going to bring this back down. We're at 937. And yeah, let's just put it right at prograde for the moment. Okay, that'll do. And we'll burn a little bit more. 950, 960, 970, 980, 990, and let's put this right at 1 megameter. Little more than that. There we go. We'll call that good. That is engine shut down. And now, of course, right around here, we want to create a maneuver plan. And that is going to be something like this. We just want to circularize it up. So that'll pull us up into orbit. And how well timed is this? 910 versus 1094. So we do want to have this be probably a little earlier in the orbit. 985 versus 1004, that's good enough. So we'll go ahead and align that. Excellent. Hello, Moon. You look very small. Very small. That's interesting. Well, regardless, we're going to get aligned for this, and this burn will be in about 15 minutes, which is not surprising. That is about what we'd expect. 397 delta V to be able to circularize at this, so that's okay. Which this is claiming an 8-minute burn. I don't think that's particularly accurate, but we definitely do need to overhaul the delta Vs in this thing, or more specifically, the thrust to weight. The thrust to weight is grim, but luckily we can work our way through it with physics warp, so that's a nice KSP2 feature. I do like that. That you can go up to like 50x while burning. The unfortunate thing is that you can't change your attitude while burning, and physics warping, but honestly, small price to pay. So let's just make our way on around here. 12 minutes. 10. Cool. So 397 meters per second to get ourselves into this orbit. 30 seconds to go. We can warp forward this a little bit further. 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, mark. And off we go. As we can see here, our periapsis is raising up nicely. We are still technically suborbital at this point. And we'll remain suborbital for a little bit here. We should definitely physics warp this burn. It's going to be a long one. So 40 kilometers, 50, 60. We are now officially orbital. Sounds good. 100 kilometers, 120, 140, 160, 180, 200. Yeah, we've got a ways to go here. 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500. Cool. We'll come out of the physics warp about now. We've got about 20 seconds left in this burn. And that looks reasonably fine. So we have definitely burned off a fair amount of our fuel here. No doubt about that. But this is okay. We need very little delta V from here to actually do what we need to do. So that's fine. We're going to definitely escape Kerbal, but we need to be a bit careful about what direction we want to do that in. Okay, so we're going to be shutting down this burn right now. That's good enough. Okay, and now, of course, we need to escape Kerbal. So do we want to go for Moon here and do a slingshot? Honestly, probably not. I'm currently leaning towards a no on that one. Now, we're going to need to do an inclination change to actually head to Eve. Is this the correct direction to head to Eve? No, that's going to take us to Duna. So we need to go on the other side of the orbit. Okay. So sometime more like here or so. Well, maybe like here. So that will take us inward towards Eve. Yeah, that's a much better periapsis. We can put it about right here or so. That'll be reasonably fine. Now, if we set Eve as our target, we can see we're going to need an inclination change of 2.1 degrees. That's fine. No big deal. So let's align for this. And we'll do this burn in about 12 minutes. That is not a long wait for this burn. Excellent. And how much delta V do we actually have right now? Well, we don't actually know is the answer. We can see that these four, we did burn about half of their fuel, getting ourselves into this orbit. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. We've got so much delta V in this thing, way more than it even thinks we have. It thinks we have 7,000, which is a lot. But to be clear, we have more than that. Significantly more. So let's get aligned here. And once we are aligned, we'll warp forward. Yeah, this is close enough. So that'll be about a 12-minute warp. And we'll commence what is apparently a 13-minute burn. Okay, here in about 30 seconds. Honestly, we might start it a little early, but no, I don't think I will. Overshot. Okay, that's on me. We're starting it a little bit late. Whatever. It doesn't really matter all that much. So it's a pretty hefty burn here. And we're just going to get ourselves quite a lot of speed. So let's take a look at how this is going. Yeah, this is reasonably fine, but it's very low thrust to weight. Right? Like, these are very, very long burns. No doubt about that. Okay, so at this point, I want to check where we are here. Okay. We're fine to continue burning for the moment. Yeah, this is still okay. Let's just bring this guy right on in, and we'll call it good here. Cool. So that looks reasonably fine for right now. Next, of course, is our ascending node, which we should probably get our escape done before we get that set up. So that'll be right out over this direction, right? So we'll just time warp out to this point. Goodbye, Kerbal. It's going to be a while before we see you again. I don't think this is... Oh, this is a universal time. This isn't mission elapsed time. That makes more sense. For some reason, I was thinking in the previous ones that we were on mission elapsed time because it would make sense to have this be in mission elapsed time. And now it is in mission elapsed time, so that seems good. Okay, so we are now in orbit of Kerbal. We have exited the sphere of influence of Kerbal. So next, I want to head to the ascending node here. And we'll create a maneuver plan there. We can see this is 2.1 degrees right now, negative 2.1. And we're going to need to just change this inclination a bit. As you can see, it's a fair amount of delta V over Kerbal here, but only 2.1 degrees isn't too bad. 318 meters per second sounds good. So that burn is going to be in 18 days, and we're just going to coast until then. So that is fine. We've got 1209 meters per second left in these tanks, so more than enough to do this and our transfer burn. Yeah, this is going to be absolutely fine. We have so much delta V in this. This is wildly overkill for what we're trying to do here. Okay, So let's make sure that we have all of our experiments. We may as well do that and get aligned here. Then we'll warp on over 18 days. And let's get that inclination change completed. There, of course, is Kerbal being blinding in its radiance. No shockers there. And let's bring ourselves in and warp. Excellent. So now we've got about 18 minutes here. We're out of communication range. That is expected. That's why Jeb is here. 40 seconds. Okay, let's do something like this. Okay. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. The timing on those seconds is so weird. It really doesn't feel like those are seconds. I don't know. This is about a 5-minute burn, so let's warp on through that. Excellent. We don't need to do any sort of maneuvers or anything. Let's just bring this back down. Still about a 30-second burn. So 20 more seconds. 10 more seconds. Okay. And let's bring this on down. 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, so that is engine shut down there. We should be at 0.0 degree inclination from Eve, which indeed we are. So now we want to look for an encounter. So somewhere around the apoapsis over here, let's see if this is at all any good. It probably isn't. What do we got? Yeah, that is about as bad as it can be. They're exact opposite sides of Kerbal. Okay, so if we were to delay this to be at the periapsis, we would then bring down the apoapsis a little bit further. Yeah, we're going to have to wait in orbit. That's okay. We'll get rid of this, and let's orbit this guy right on around to here. We may have to give it another orbit. We'll see, but our transfer window is not great. So we'll just have to set up for another transfer window, which is absolutely fine. Okay, so around we come, and once again, let's check in at the apoapsis here. What do we got? That's actually really close. Hang on. That's incredibly close. We can get there just by changing the timing of this slightly. No, I don't... No, hang on. Don't do that. I wanted to drag the timing, not add in any anti-normal. Okay, so we'll bring this back in again. Yeah, that timing is very, very close. Let's try changing the timing. It needs to go this way. Looks good. In theory, this is all we need to do. In theory, we do not need to do any circularization or anything, but overall, that looks like a really solid encounter. 500 meters per second to get there. Let's go. We're still going to be running our 4 tanks on our interplanetary transfer stage, and that seems really, really solid. It is, however, about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're going to transfer over to Eve, do our flyby, and we'll see if there's any missions that pop up after that want us to do anything in the Eve system. We will definitely have the capacity to do most things in Eve, other than land on Eve. We could probably land on Eve. Probably. It would be grim, though. Very grim. We probably lack the heat shield for it, as I think about it. At any rate, it is time to put that cut in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're going to perform our flyby. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time. That is not the button we're looking for. Let's try that one.